And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Paul Campson. Paul, thank you for being my guest today, sir.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Michael. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. It's going to be a fun conversation. So, Paul's an attorney. He runs Campson Law up in the New York area. And what we want to talk about today is, as I'm titling this, the case for an experienced lawyer and why it's important that should the day come that you need a great lawyer to help you in a from being in an accident or something, why you need an experienced lawyer. So we're going to talk about that. So, Paul, you've been practicing law for a number of years, but tell me, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, so we've been at this for a long time. Uh, we started because it's a type of thing where we hate bullies,
Mhm.
and we really feel like you've seen it. You've seen movies. You've seen where people are horribly injured. Some investigator from the insurance company shows up with a check that's woefully inadequate, and then they sign their rights away and so forth. And we really think that insurance companies are really the role of bullies these days. They make so much money. I mean, we've all seen it. You pay your premiums on time and everything, and then they disclaim for this or they disclaim for that. They're always looking for ways not to pay out. And I get it. That's their business model, but it's a really bad business model for the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of consumers don't realize that until that day comes. And so many of them, when they have an accident or they're involved in something, they're probably in shock and they're not thinking clearly. And so the insurance company is my friend, right? They're there to protect me. And of course, they don't know what to do. So let's talk a little bit about that. First of all, talk a little bit about the types of cases that you see that you serve people in. Is there one or two, or is it across the board?
Yeah, it's really kind of across the board, but it's the car accidents, the trip and falls, the slip and falls.
Yeah.
We see a lot of these, particularly here in the city in New York. These landlords, they have these buildings, they charge these ridiculous rents. They don't keep the buildings up to date. They don't keep them safe. Again, they're taking the rewards and not putting anything back,
Yeah.
to their tenants, and they're not protecting people, and they have a legal right that they have to protect people, and they're just not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of it is what I would term, and tell me if this is the right word. I'm not an attorney. Negligence at one level or another. That's a lot of times what happens, right?
That's 100% correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you've got negligence there, and then you've got greedy bullying insurance companies, right? Who really, yeah, they're doing business. If you're a shareholder, that's probably what you want them to do. But when you look at the business model and the way they're treating people, it just kind of gives you a bad taste in your mouth. And the normal consumer, dare I say the uneducated consumer, they're not dumb, they're just ignorant. They just haven't ever done this. The accident always happens to the other guy until it happens to me,
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
right? And so, wow, what do I do? What maybe what I should do, but also what I shouldn't do. Could you give us like two or three on either side?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing you should never do is engage with the insurance company on your own. In personal injury cases, it doesn't cost you anything to hire a lawyer, right? We work on a contingency fee basis, which means we only get paid if we get you money, and we essentially become business partners. The more money you get, the more money I get. The
Yeah.
quicker you get your money, the quicker I get my money, right? And the insurance companies are pros. They do this 1,000 times a day. You do this once, hopefully, in your lifetime. The
Mm,
the the balance of power there is ridiculously lopsided in favor of the insurance companies. So
right.
number one, insurance company reaches out to you, they call you, they send you a letter, they send you an email, and they do this every day, 3, 4 times a day, and they browbeat you down. So you should immediately consult with a lawyer, because
Okay.
most lawyers, any good lawyer, won't charge you for a consultation in the
Right.
personal injury space.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cost you anything to consult, and let an experienced lawyer get in there, figure out what's going on, how to best maximize what you need to do. So
Yeah.
that's number one. Don't talk to anybody.
Okay.
Number two, if you could document anything, if you could take a photograph, a video, something, because insurance companies love to say, well, there were no witnesses. How do I know you didn't fall in your bathtub and now you're going to sue the guy down the block or something crazy,
Right.
right? So documentation is super, super important.
Yeah.
So those are really the two
Yeah.
highlights.
And I'll jump in there on documentation. And you don't know this, right? Because we just met, but my dad
Sure.
was killed in a motorcycle accident back in 1987. He was
Okay.
riding on an old country road that he'd never been on before, right? And by the time he saw the stop ahead sign, he didn't have enough time to stop. Well, the reason was there was a tree branch that had grown up over the stop ahead sign. Somebody, right after that accident, went out and took pictures of all of that stuff, right? Guess what was cut 2 or 3 days later, Paul?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
tree branch.
Yep.
Had we not had that photograph, I don't know that we would have gotten the settlement.
I think that's absolutely right. And again, we see this all the time.
Yeah, because this, in my case, the state knew what was going on. And they're like, oh, we need to do some maintenance on that county road. So,
Yes.
but even if you're, let's talk. I mean, the traffic in New York's a little heavy.
Sure.
Let's say you're involved in a traffic accident, right? Using your cell phone, just taking pictures, take a video. Was it raining? Is it snow? All those little details, right?
Sure. Did you have a stop sign? Was there a traffic light? Was it a three-color traffic light, red, yellow, green? Take a photo of the other car's license plate. Take photographs of the damage to your car, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Just it doesn't have to be super professional, but you just want to capture what lane you were in. Maybe you were wholly in your lane and somebody came into your lane. There's 1,000 things to do, but if you do anything, it's better than doing nothing.
Yeah, it really is. And I think sometimes it's just having the awareness, because you usually are in shock and you don't know what to do, and you're calling your mom or your brother or your wife and it's like, okay, I have this thing in my pocket that called a phone. I'm not sure why we call it a phone because it does so many other things. But yeah, just hit the record button on a camera and just slowly look around and talk and say, here's what's going on. What about talking? Do you talk? Do you not talk? Do you say, oh, I'm so sorry I hit you?
Right. Again, it's best not to say anything. The less you say is always the better in any situation in the world. Say less is more. But you can certainly, inquire if the other driver is okay, if there's need for any medical, you could be a right. Real sympathetic person.
Right.
But never admit, fault or guilt, because, you may not even know what happened.
That's right. A lot of times you probably don't. Yeah.
Right. It happens so quick. You may not have seen the other vehicle or what have you. Yeah.
Yeah. And one more thing about reaching out to an attorney quickly.
Yes.
And this may be not right, but that's why I'm asking you this question, right? Is when I call you, let's say I've been in an accident and I call you and I hire you, I retain you or whatever that word is.
Sure.
Do you then kind of step in between me and that insurance company to buffer them? Is that right?
100%. And okay. we always tell our clients, if they sent you an email, if they sent you any documents, please get it over to us. Don't fill out anything. We'll take care of everything. That's what you hired us for. This is all we do. We do this every day like the insurance company, except we do it for you.
Yeah. So two things there. One, that reduces stress. Because if you've been in an accident, you got enough stress, right?
Yes.
You've got doctor's appointments and all that. And we want to talk about that too, because they need to be going to doctors and things. But reaching out to Paul and his team, because they're that buffer, number one, they're experts. They do this. The other thing about the insurance company that you said, and I think this is accurate, is not only do they do this every day, but they probably have an entire team of attorneys behind them that do it, so they know how to exert the right type of pressure to get people to move. Whereas when you have Paul and his team, you've almost got another Goliath going head to head.
Correct. They prey on your fears, your insecurities, and your lack of knowledge, right? That's what they do. That's their edge, right? So we always tell our clients, get medical help if you need it. We'll take care of everything else. You don't need to do anything else. This is what we do. We'll deal with it.
Yeah. And that's so good. That's peace of mind and comfort and having communication to go, oh, I have a question. Who do I call? You call Paul. You call his team.
Yep.
And because you do this all day, every day for dozens of people, you've been doing it. You know what it is. That's why you're so experienced in it. And that's why when we talked about this episode being the case for an experienced lawyer, it doesn't mean that your case, your auto accident, has to be so big. But what you need to know is every case really needs an experienced attorney, an experienced lawyer who knows the ropes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because also, what people don't realize until they're in an accident, it rarely just affects them, right? It could affect your spouse, your children, right? Maybe you're a wage earner, or maybe you take care of the home. If you're unable to do those things, that's going to have an effect on everybody in your life. So there's really a lot going on, and it's not just about you. And we always make sure we want to, is the family taken care of? Are your children where they need to be?
Yeah,
And again, it doesn't matter what type of accident it is or the severity of the accident. For you, this is unique.
right.
For us, it is not.
That's right. Yeah. And what a lot of people don't realize, Paul, is they think if they try to do this themselves, one, they're going to be overpowered. Number two, they're going to be doing this at work, on the weekends, at night, all of that, which just adds to the stress and the anxiety and the decrease of life. When if you just hire Paul and his team, they got all that, right?
Absolutely. The analogy, Michael, would have to be like if I go to my local basketball court on a Saturday and I play an hour of basketball, and then I think I'm going to get on court with LeBron, right?
Right.
That's never going to happen, right? The insurance companies are LeBron. They're the
Yeah.
biggest dog in the room, right?
Yeah.
They're going to eat your lunch if you let them.
Yeah, yeah, and I think sometimes we have to understand that there's really no accident or incident that's too small, because again, it doesn't cost anything to reach out. So you might get nipped by a dog down the neighborhood, right? But you might find out that that dog, now you're the fourth person that dog's nipped, and the fifth one's going to have a right. So it's one of those things, you don't want to just run to the doctor all the time or run to the attorney all the time, but there are certain things that you don't need to be fearful because, well, you can tell from Paul, I can tell, Paul, just talking with you for the last few minutes, you are just a higher powered, pressured, not let me off the phone. No,
Right,
he's here
right.
to serve and to help and to guide and direct, even if you don't retain him. Is that fair? Is that how people should look at it?
Yeah, for sure. We always say, because there are a lot of lawyers out there, we always say, listen, this is what's going to happen. You know, every one of my clients, has my cell phone number. They're texting me on holidays, wishing me a happy Thanksgiving, whatever it may be. It's a really nice bond. We have systems set up where they could always reach out to the team, but we always say, listen, if there's an emergency, if there's anxiety, if something's happening, pick up the phone, give me a call. This
Yeah,
is all we do. We're here for you. We're
yeah,
we're we're a team.
yeah,
You know, and we always say, people say, oh, it's just a small accident. A small accident is an accident that happens to somebody else. When it happens to you, there's nothing small about it.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And you've got to, and the other thing is Paul and his team will help you really ask the right questions and guide you down the right process. I had a friend in they're back in Indiana. Her two teenagers were involved in a big serious accident. Somebody crossed over the line or something, and I don't know that they went to the doctor immediately. So like 2 months later, they're saying, my back kind of hurts, and so I think people say, oh, it's okay, I don't need to go to the hospital. It's like, what? No, you probably should, just to document. And now is that
Yes. Yeah. Again, it brings excellent point, Michael. It brings us back to the documentation. At least initially, go to a doctor, get it checked out. Right. You never know, because certainly with soft tissue injuries, meaning not fracture, not bone related, neck and back injuries,
yeah,
they tend to manifest themselves, over time. Right.
yeah,
Like you could say you went out on the weekend, you did some yard work, and then maybe Tuesday or Wednesday you wake up and you're like, oh my God, my back is killing me. That's the same type of thing that we see in these car accident whiplash type of cases that you see all the time. It takes a while for it to manifest.
yeah, it really is. And so there's just so many things that when we get into um, an area of a lawsuit, I think it just scares us to death. Whether we're talking about a car slip and fall, something that happens at work, even now I've got to go against my employer,
Yes.
or I'm going against my landlord. Oh my goodness, what's that going to be? You need to have expert representation to guide you down these pathways to I think to help you ask the right questions, make some informed decisions, and protect you from the bullies, right?
Yes, and alleviate all the anxiety. Like, oh my God, I can't sue my landlord; he's going to throw me out. Well, no, that's actually not even another lawsuit. It certainly is, but it's actually a crime, and it's a federal crime,
Oh,
so they
there you
can't
go.
do that. So that's number one. Even if it's the landlord's inclination to do that, their lawyer will be like, no way,
Yeah.
no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So and that just comes with experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all those questions that, yeah, a novice, we think about that and we're going, oh no. And that locks us up and we stick our head in the sand like an ostrich. Whereas Paul and his team are like, oh, no, 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 just forget that one. Let's go here. And here's how we do it. And I think the other thing, Paul, that I love talking with you because you're so friendly is we have this perspective of personal injury attorneys because we see the TV ads and with the billboards that I've got a sledgehammer and I'm going after the guy.
Yep, sure. Yep.
I don't want to work with somebody like that. I want to work with somebody like Paul, right? So talk a little bit about the friendly nature, the relationship with the client, all that.
Sure. So, like we always tell our clients, and we try to be, like my wife's my partner. We've been doing this for 30 years. So we'll be at dinner. We'll be discussing various clients and various cases and so forth. So we always say, you're part of our family. We are literally discussing your case while we're having lunch, or
Right.
and we always say, don't mistake our accessibility or our friendliness to you as what we're going to be with the insurance company,
Right.
right? Because we know, what needs to be done. And again, we're business partners. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave $5 on the table because that's $1.50 out of my pocket. And
That's
that's
right.
not going to happen. So I'm
That's
going to get
right.
you every penny I possibly can,
Yeah.
because it's the way we operate.
And talk a little bit about, and I don't know if there are any statistics on this or not, but how many cases actually go all the way to court? Because we see the jury room and all that. And what I learned is not a lot of them go that way. But what have you learned in most cases, or how do you even address that?
Yeah. So very few cases actually go the distance to a full trial.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they start the trial stage, they usually settle during the trial.
Okay.
Last year, I tried 7 cases to verdict, and I think I was number 4 in the state with the number of verdicts taken in a year. So that
Okay.
just gives you some idea.
Wow.
Out of hundreds, thousands of lawsuits filed,
Yeah.
so very, very few go all the way.
Okay. And odds are, and you might have statistics. If a person tries to go against the insurance company themselves, and let's say they win, okay, but with an attorney, with an experienced attorney like you, the dollar amount actually could usually be a lot bigger because of how you can negotiate what you know. Is that
Yes, and also, we're putting everything into the pot. We're putting lost wages. We're putting future medical costs and expenses with past medical costs, past, lost earnings. All of that goes into the pot, and you may not know that. The ABA the American Bar Association did a study about 7 years ago, and they said on average the recovery using an attorney is 3.5x by you doing it yourself. Now, if you're not paying your attorney out of pocket anyway,
yeah.
and they're going to get you more money, this is the perfect win-win of all time.
Absolutely. Yeah. It really is. And when I first started working with personal injury attorneys and things and understood the compensation aspect, not only because honestly, Paul, here's what people say: you're taking how much of my money? A, it's not your money. B, you wouldn't have that much money if it weren't for Paul. But C, you, and make sure I can say this correctly, you and your firm have a way to help the client. I mean, in some cases, pay for like medical bills and things during the time period, but you recoup that later or so.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So we always tell our clients at the end of this process, you have to be made whole. So let's say your case is worth $100,000, right? I'm
Okay.
making up a number, and
Sure.
you have $10,000 in medical bills, and we know we have to pay those $10,000 back. Then you have to get at least $110,000, right?
Okay.
Because we know that 10 grand is not yours. It's not mine. It's going to the doctors. So that's got to be paid back. So it's not like, oh, I got a good recovery, but then I had to pay 10 grand. No, 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 no. That's factored in, and you're
Okay.
going to be made whole. You're not going to be out of pocket any money ever.
That's good. And see, and I think that's the other aspect of working with an experienced lawyer. And well, I think we just made the case for an experienced lawyer is because all of these little things that add together and how to navigate it, how to ask for the right thing. And when the insurance company comes back and says, well, we'll give you 50 grand, Paul, after he picks himself up off the floor from laughing, goes, no, I think that's I read this in a book years ago. I love this line. That's an interesting opening negotiating position.
Yes, yeah,
No, no.
exactly right.
And
And yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. No.
So, part of to bring it full circle, part of hiring an experienced attorney is we know all the players,
Yeah.
right? We're in New York. We know all the judges. I don't mean like, oh, we know them, wink, wink. No, we've been before them. We know their judicial temperament. We know if what insurance company is, what negotiating stance they're going to take when they assign counsel. We know the opposing attorneys. We know them. We know who are going to play straight, who are going to pull fast ones, who are going to try to do whatever. We know the landscape, so nothing is going to be a surprise to us.
I love it. Yeah, it is really, it's fascinating from an outside perspective to understand and to see this all play out, right? And everybody always says, well, those two attorneys in court, they were just fighting each other. Then they went to lunch together. That's your job, right?
Yes. So oftentimes we'll get a case, and a defense attorney will appear, and it'll be a young associate, and they're all, let's go get them. We're going to win this case, and they're not going to win the case, And it turns out, I'm sure I know their managing partner. We've had cases together, so it's always like, oh, make sure you say hi to Bill for me, and
Right.
and let them know that we're on this case together. And all of a sudden, it takes a lot of steam out of that young associate with something to prove, because we don't have anything to prove anymore. We've proven it for 30 plus years,
That's right.
and the other side knows that as well.
Yeah, that's right. So, I just think it's great. I love having you on here because it's as I talked about the case for an experienced lawyer, you need somebody to represent you who's been around the block a few times.
Yes.
And I'm not opposed to a younger attorney as long as they've got
Sure.
somebody like you helping them learn the ropes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, new blood's always great, but you gotta have a mentor. You gotta have somebody who's been around the block to show you the ropes.
Yeah.
We love young energy. We love young enthusiasm, and there's a time and place for that.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to dollars and cents in negotiating, you need somebody who's been around the block.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, when you're involved in an accident like that, it is a negotiation. I think that's what people have to understand because the person injured is very emotional, right?
Yes.
And there's a place for that, but you need somebody like Paul who can really help you negotiate on your best interest.
Yep.
And the cool thing is, it's your best interest too, because the more money you make for the client, the more money you make. I think that's a pretty cool system, actually.
Yes, exactly. We're both incentivized, and at the end of the day, we have discussions with our client. It's always their final call. We're like, this is you got to make a business decision.
Yeah.
I get it. You're angry, or you may be upset with the other person, and you want them to lose their license, or you want the landlord to lose the building. It's probably not going to happen.
That's right.
So at some point, let's get you fair or better than fair compensation, but let's make a business decision together.
Right. Yeah. And at one level, let's do that. Let's try to put this behind you because you've got the rest of your life to live. Let's not live in the past. Let's deal with it. Let's get you but let's keep going forward. Right.
Exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Paul, this has been really a fun conversation. I love what you do, by the way. I love the whole world because you're there with the right heart to protect people and to make them whole again as best you can and to let them have a future that's filled with hope and great memories and things of that nature, which many times would not happen if they had not reached out to you. So how could somebody, Paul, if they're in your world, another attorney listening, what's the best way for somebody to reach out to you?
Right. So it's campsonlaw.com, all over the place. And we actually have trademarked Better Call Paul. So believe it or not, so if you go Better Call Paul, we will come up and we will help you.
I love that. There's a whole marketing thing right there that we could talk about. I love
Yes, for sure.
Better Call Paul. Okay, campsonlaw.com. I'm going to have that in the show notes so people can reach out to you. This has been a phenomenal interview, Paul. I appreciate you showing up and just shedding some light on an area that a lot of people it's in the dark. We don't, you're don't take this wrong. Crap to work with.
Yes.
But should the day come, I want people to understand that personal injury attorneys like Paul can really help you, and they need to be really that first call that you make when something happens, because they're there to help you and protect you. So
Thank you. And big fan of yours and what you do, Michael. Thank you.
thank you. Oh, you're so welcome, Paul. Thanks for being my guest on Expert Speak. Anybody else, thanks for listening. Tune in again next week for another great episode. Take care and God bless.
Thanks.